which is fragmenting because of the trade policies by US, because of a lot of other things that US's policies towards Ukraine and its relationship with Russia. As the chair of G7 finance leaders, what will be your main message to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent?
Well, I mean, we're delighted that Secretary Bessent is with us in Banff. We're delighted that we have the chairman of the Federal Reserve, which are with us. Their voice really matter. We're going to continue to engage in a very constructive discussion, as we did when we were in Washington just a few weeks ago. There's big things that we need to do together. We've been talking about overcapacity. We've been talking about non-market practices. And I can tell you, colleagues, we are in touch on a very regular basis. And we want to tackle the big things. We talk about financial crime to growth to prosperity. And that's why I said this is a G7 meeting of going back to basics, you know, what the G7 was meant for. And I very much look forward to the contribution of Secretary Bessent. All the colleagues are very eager to meet with him and to really have a chance to discuss, frankly, openly, how we can work together, how we can be united and send a strong message to the world.
But not tariffs.
Well, listen, we always talk about the issues that are front and center. There's no doubt that, like I said, we are united. That's the outcome when we came out of the meeting we had in Washington. But there was always tension around tariffs, as you would expect. But at the same time, there's a lot we can achieve together. There's a lot that we are looking to coordinate our actions and really tackle some of the big issues around overcapacity, non-market practices, financial crime. So the spirit around the table is constructive. The spirit around the table is action. The spirit around the table is to send a strong message to the world, and that's what is going to drive us over the next few days.
Prochaine question, s'il vous plaît. Question, s'il vous plaît. Next question.
Hi, my name is Imad. I'm from Al Arabi TV network. I'm based in DC. So my question is about the statement that was put out yesterday by Britain, France, and Canada about the Israeli offensive in Gaza. So my question is this something that you're going to discuss during these meetings, especially that the statement mentioned that there might be concrete actions if this offensive didn't come to an end? And would sanctions, as a finance minister, would sanctions or could it be considered as a measurement or an action to kind of pressure Israel to stop the offensive?
Well, we're waiting.
Well, first of all, welcome to Canada, sir. We're delighted to have you with us. I will let the statement speak for itself. I think this is for the leaders to discuss. Our mission here is going to be focused on the agenda item that we have set for ourselves, which is around stability, around growth, around tackling how we can have more productivity, prosperity for the nations that we represent. So I would say this would be a discussion for the leaders more than for the finance minister, and therefore I would leave it there for the time being.
Next question.
Why don't you stay there? I think you come from Canada, right?
Somewhere.
What?
Yeah,
About
somewhere.
Steve Chase with the Globe and Mail. I want to return to the same subject. You talked about the conflict in Ukraine, but I want to talk about the conflict in Gaza. Yesterday, the Canadian government made an extraordinary statement. It teamed up with the UK and France to threaten targeted sanctions, to threaten concrete actions against Israel if it doesn't stop its renewed military conflict in Gaza and didn't remove the curbs on aid. So Benjamin Netanyahu said that Canada and France and the UK are handing a gift to Hamas, effectively rewarding them for the October 7th attack. What do you say to that?
Well, like I said, there was a statement issued yesterday. I would say, Steve, we've been very focused today about the G7 agenda. We have the finance minister of Ukraine with us. The whole focus of the day for us has been around the G7, work that we need to do, very important work for the world. And therefore, like I said, I would leave the leaders to comment on that. And that's really something for the leaders as opposed to really the finance ministers to comment on these particular issues.
You've delayed the budget this year until the fall. Each year since the Russia's all-out assault on Ukraine, you've had money in the budget for Ukraine, extra money, financial support, so Ukraine can run its country. Can we expect that support, more financial support for Ukraine in the fall budget? And what progress, if any, have you made in seizing Mr. Abramovich's plane and transferring the assets, or seizing his assets and transferring the $26 million to Ukraine?
Well, first of all, let me go back to the budget. That's a real Canadian issue. By the way, welcome to a summer day in Canada. It should pass. Going back to the budget, I mean, the Prime Minister and I talked with respect to the budget, and there will be a budget in the fall, and I think this is a prudent approach. Like we said, there's going to be a lot of things leading up to that. There's the NATO summit that is going to come in June that's going to have an impact on defense investments. There's going to be also the review of spending and efficiency of the Canadian government. And there will also be, discussions with our U.S. friend, and we'll have a better sense of the global macroeconomic picture by then. And I think that's why we will be in a position to present a full budget, a prudent, and I think that's a prudent approach, and that's what Canadians want to see. They want us to be transparent, they want us to be prudent, they want us to be ambitious. On the statement you made, you will know because you've been following us for a couple of years now, I think. I'm not going to comment on what might be in the budget coming in the fall, but what I would say as a general statement, you have seen Canada, as many other allies, standing shoulder to shoulder with our friends in Ukraine, and the kind of support that you have seen Canada providing to Ukraine will continue. And that's why today, and the fact that we have Minister Marchenko with us here in Canada as a special guest is a big signal to the world that we are standing side by side with our Ukrainian friend, that we're going to hold Russia to account, and that we're going to all be part in this reconstruction for the Ukrainian people.
Prochaine question, next question.
Good afternoon, Eric Hertzberg, Bloomberg News. I'm at Ottawa. Does Canada plan to explore tariffs fees on imports of low-value Chinese products from companies like Temu, Shein? Is that something that will be discussed this week?
Well, this is something that that we have started to discuss, I would say, as G7 in terms of low-value shipments that have come in our respective countries. It creates a number of issues, as you would expect, some around, the control at the border. There's other issues that come with that, as you would expect in terms of making sure that we have all the safeguards in place, that people don't use these low shipments, for example, to smuggle different things in different jurisdictions. So we are on, I would say, we have an eye on this issue. So there'll be discussions this time. We started that discussion, but certainly the low-value shipments have created a number of things that we want to discuss amongst ourselves and see how we can progress that discussions, because it's not only about the revenues, but it's really about, the customs and making sure that we protect our respective jurisdiction, that these packages are not used to smuggle things in different jurisdictions.
Right. And as a follow-up, is a discussion of a lower price cap on Russian oil part of the talks taking place this week? And Mr. Champagne, would you support exploring that measure or any additional sanctions on Putin?
Maybe Sergei want to say something on that.
Of course, for us it was a good idea to impose caps on oil price, and right now it's a good chance to revise this existing price cap, and it's our position. We would like to reiterate that it's a good time to make it lower, to make Russia economy suffer, because they use this money for military needs, and that's why it's important to impose stricter sanctions on Russia.
Thank you.
Next question.
Paul Vieira, Wall Street Journal.
How are you doing, sir?
Good.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Maybe just as a follow-up on that question, is there going to be will either you, Mr. Marchenko, or other G7 members will you talk to Mr. Bessent about reimposing tariffs on Russia?
During our meetings, during these days, we will find a chance to reiterate our position towards sanctioning Russia, and we would like these sanctions will be stronger because it's only possible way how to impose definitely necessary sanctions on Russia for them to make necessary agreements when we have discussions related to peace.
Okay. As a follow-up, Mr. Champagne, you talked about that there's been tension about trade, and you say that this G7 is about going back to basics. But so if we're going back to basics, the business community would argue that we need more predictability, more certainty. Won't going back to basics then involve a deep discussion and potentially tense discussion about trade policy?
Well, I mean, that's why I say we need to go back to the basic and restore stability and focus on growth. I agree with you. Stability, predictability, rule of law are the fundamental ingredients to prosperity, and so therefore we're going to be talking about that. But there's a lot for us to talk about. Clearly we have addressed these issues last time we met in Washington. And I think the message from colleagues is pretty clear, is that a free and fair and a rule-based multilateral trading system is a system in which we all win. And therefore, we certainly want to provide stability to consumers. We certainly want to provide stability to investors. We certainly want to provide stability to businesses. And therefore, that's why, for me, restoring stability, focusing on growth is going back to basic, because if you look at the G7 in its history, it's always about driving prosperity around the world on a macro level. So that's why these discussions at this particular moment in time are crucial for the world economy. And I think the world is going to be watching the discussions we have, but also the actions and the outcome that come from the meeting here in Banff in Canada.